Welcome to EnduringTechnologyPress.com. I'm Eric, and one of the really cool things about doing your own baking is that you get to play with a variety of ways to come up with some really cool baked goods. And one of the really neat ways to make breads and buns is steaming. And it's not what you usually think. I mean, there's certainly the oven, that's usually the conventional way. The oven with a little bit of steam in it to really develop that crust. But then you can actually cook with steam. And some folks, traditionally, I think I'd come to think more of like a Boston steamed bread. Goes great with beans. But there's also Chinese steamed rolls. And they're really cool to do, really easy, and they go with a really neat, with things like barbecue pork, barbecue venison, that type of thing. They're a really neat bun that is really rather cool and easy to produce. So that's what we're going to do today. We've just milled up some flour, whole wheat flour in the Homestead grain mill. So we're going to use that as a basis. And this is whole extraction flour. So we're going to put in about 2 1/3 cups of the flour. Just judge it roughly. Into our bowl for our stand mixer. We've got sugar and the yeast. We're just using quick bread machine yeast, so I don't have to prehydrate it. And I'll mix that up a little bit to distribute the two with the flour. Then we've got our liquid ingredients. It's a little bit of milk, some rice vinegar, and oil. We'll mix that together, pour it in. And because you're using whole wheat flour, you want to get a fairly consistent dough quality where it binds together. A little bit wetter, because as that whole extraction flour passes with time, it's going to suck up a lot of moisture. The hydration rate with this whole wheat flour is much slower than you'd have with a conventional white flour, which, you know, by the time you're done your kneading cycle, you have a pretty good idea of the final consistency. Whole wheat flour, that's going to dry out as it passes through that rise cycle, as the fiber in there pulls up more of the moisture. So bear that in mind as we're mixing it. I've got my stand mixer here that I love. So I'm going to put this in, and I'll mix it up for, about 10-15 minutes of kneading until I get a really nice consistency. Adding more liquid in order to make sure that I have a firm dough that is very cohesive and, again, has a little bit of extra moisture in order to allow for that absorption during the rising cycle. We'll allow it to rise for about 2 hours. Then we'll come back and I'll show you the next steps. So here's the dough as it's come together, and it's being kneaded by stand mixer. This makes home baking and cooking so much easier, and I love the 10-quart size. It's just perfect for the home kitchen. Big enough that you can make multiple batches, but small enough that you can scale most things down. It's not a perfect fit for the dough hook with the bottom of the bowl, but as long as you start to help it come together, then it'll pick it right up, and as you can see, do an awesome job of the kneading. And I can go on and do something else while this does the work for me. So we'll let it finish the kneading. We'll cover it up with a tea towel and then let it double in bulk, and I'll show you what's going on after that, the next steps. Okay, so it's gone through its rise. We've put it in the stand mixer to beat it down a little bit more. And we're rolling it out like a log. If you like baking and like whole grain flours, you can't really beat what you can get by grinding your own and using it fresh. And really, project to make it is pretty affordable. The tools are easy enough to master. Okay, so we've got our long sausage. We're going to cut it into about 15, something like that, pieces. Maybe. Okay. And we're going to roll them into balls. You need to flour your work surface. Do that. Consistency right here isn't all that sticky, so you can get away without doing it. Okay, so we get this. Okay. Almost like a mini pizza there. Okay, so just grab some oil. We got our brush here. I'm going to brush oil on the top. Okay. Fold over. You don't want to press it together. You want to leave that gap there. Put it on a baking sheet, silicone, and then we're going to let it rise in bulk again. It'll probably be about an hour and a half, 2 hours before we go and steam it. Our buns have risen, and we've got our steamer, and I upgraded to a larger steamer just recently, so this one's nice and clean. Love these. These are nice and cheap. So we've got the water in there. It's nearly boiling. You can see a little bit of steam coming off. And we're going to take the upper one. We're going to put our buns in here. It'll have to be done in a couple waves. It's going to be 8 to 10 minutes of boiling. We'll put them on when we get a roaring boil. 8 to 10 minutes of boiling, then we'll take them off. Time's elapsed. Here's what we got. Whew. Steam's hot. There we go. Those wonderful buns. We've got some Asian pork. Grab this. Wonderful. Fill these buns. We've got some quick pickled carrots, Asian pickled carrots, using rice vinegar in it. These, drain them, add them. And we've got the start of an awesome meal. Really easy, really neat way to bake some whole wheat buns that are a little bit different and a little bit creative.